Alrighty, everybody. It's Nornrad89 here. Thank you all for joining us today. We're going to be talking about animation horror films, and I'm joined by a special guest, Jason The Old Millenial. He was great enough, to agree to join on the channel. Today, we're going to talk about a few movies that we like that are kind of in that spooky genre, but they're more kind of PG or PG-13 rated type films. You know what I mean? These are kind of more family type films that you can watch with your kids and stuff, but they still have some kind of Halloween or spooky atmosphere and all that involved. So thank you all for joining. Anybody who's here right now, please drop a comment, or even after the fact, leave us comments, and we would greatly appreciate that. And drop a like on the video. Jason, thank you for joining me today. And would you like to introduce yourself and talk about your channel as well?
Yeah, I'm Jason from Jason the Old Millennial's name of the channel, and I cover both movies and music on my channel. I've of course done a lot of collaborations with Norn. We talked about movies or talk about wrestling on
Yeah.
my channel and on Z Talks and all that. And just uh, love ranking movies. Making lists is my main thing, I think. Both
Yeah.
movies, music, and of course, if you follow my channel, I've been talking a lot about the Beatles. That's my favorite band, and doing a lot with that. And just different projects, ranking things a lot of times. But yeah, I love talking about movies. Do that quite a bit.
Yeah, I know. I love all the rankings you come up with, and your Beatles knowledge is so vast. Like, for real. Like, I love
Thank
watching your channel about music. That's why I kind of want to talk about music too, but I'm like, I'm afraid I'm just gonna sound like totally not like intelligent at all, because you and Briar, like, you guys are like have that whole
uh,
niche group where you totally know what you're talking about.
Briar's so smart. Yeah, that's a good group.
Yeah, for real. But like I said, thank you again for joining me on today's episode. And would you like to jump into your first movie? You can pick whichever one you want to talk about first. It doesn't matter.
Okay, well, when I thought about horror movies, I was thinking one that I remember kind of scaring me as a kid. It's an old movie. Um, it's a Disney movie. It's well, it's a short, but they made it. They put two shorts together to make a official Disney movie
Yeah.
called Ichabod and Mr. Toad. I believe Adventure, yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Adventures of
The Adventures of Miss. Yeah.
uh, Ichabod, Mr. Toad, or something like that. Yeah, and it's interesting because it's two shorts. The Wind in the Willows is the Mr. Toad part, which is the first half, and then the
Mm.
second half is basically the Legend of Sleepy Hollow, which is the Ichabod part. And of course, the Legend of Sleepy Hollow is like a famous, I guess I don't know if it's a short story it came from or what. Um, they've also obviously they made a movie I think with Johnny Depp at one point, and
Yeah. Christina
they made
Ricci was in it too. Yeah. Yeah.
and they made a TV show. I remember. Do you remember the TV show?
I don't remember the TV show.
I
I
didn't
know
watch.
the movie.
Yeah, I hadn't seen the movie, but I remember as a kid like this, and this is a movie that probably came out in the. I don't know.
I think
This
it
came
was
out. I forgot to look up. Was it
I think it was
40s?
1940s. Yeah, it came
I
out in
was gonna say I think it's
1948,
1940.
I believe.
Yeah, so really old. Because it was during this weird period in Disney where during the World War II period where they weren't putting out like uh, uh, full hour and a half feature films like Snow White and stuff like that, and they were just putting shorts together and making these movies where they just put all these shorts together and called it a movie, so this was part of that era. Um, but for me, I really like the Ichabod part. Is definitely the better part of the movie. The two shorts together, and I rewatched this recently just to kind of remind myself because um, it's interesting. It's about 32-minute short or whatever, and it's almost kind of a Disney musical in some senses at the beginning, especially. It's narrated by Bing Crosby, which I really enjoy. I think he has a real good voice, and uh,
Yeah.
not only does he narrate like the story, what's going on, he also does like all the voices pretty much. Like anytime someone talks, he's like, so it's kind of interesting. He kind of just does everything. And it's just it's normal usual stories like Ichabod. It's like this new guy in town, and uh, he's a school teacher, and uh, he loves to eat. He just eats and eats. He's skinny, but he like eats like crazy, and he loves to eat, and that's like his big thing. The whole thing is just whatever he can do to eat stuff. And he falls in love with like this was it Katrina, I think her name was, and she was like the pretty girl in town, and she's the daughter of the
Yeah,
richest
she's
man
the
in town.
fairest lady in town. Yeah.
Yeah, so all the guys were just falling over each other. And then there's this guy, I think his name's like Brown Bones or something like that. And he's like it's interesting because he's almost like Gaston from Beauty and the Beast in a way. He's just the
Yeah, it does
toughest.
look like that a little bit.
Yeah. He's just like the biggest, toughest, coolest guy in town but yeah, he's nicer than Gaston. Gaston's just a real jerk, but like, um,
Hey, man.
and so it's kind of interesting that character, and he's very jealous of Ichabod because Ichabod's he falls in love with uh, the Katrina woman,
Yeah.
and is trying to woo her like everybody else. And I don't quite understand why Katrina's going for him and not the good-looking guy. I think she's playing hard to get, maybe, or something. Or and
Yeah.
anyway, so it's kind of interesting. It's a just a usual Disney I mean adaptation of the story, and then it doesn't really get real interesting until about the last 12 minutes when he goes to the party, and then Bones sings that song about the headless horseman and scares the bejeebus out of Ichabod. He's hearing this legendary story about this on Halloween, this headless horseman with like a sword and a pumpkin on fire, tries to behead people, which is looking back at it seems kind of dark for Disney, but because he's trying to behead people, decapitate people.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a head, and I guess I don't know why he does that, but uh, hey Drew. um, but like if you're going home on Halloween night, he's gonna try to kill you or something. This is legend that he starts singing this whole song, and it's a good song. I like the "You Can't Reason with the Headless Man" or something like that. It's like is the
Yeah,
one
it is a good song. Yeah.
which I like, anyways. Yeah, and then about the last 5 minutes is really the horror part that I remember as a kid being kind of scared of. Like, and I'm saying I was a kid in the '80s, so I mean I'm like 40 years after this movie came out. But yeah, the whole scene where he's walking back with his horse, and he's going through like the scary forest, and he's hearing noises, and then eventually the headless horseman shows up, and he has this like cackling laugh, which I don't know how he has a cackling laugh and he has no head, but he has like this great cackling laugh, and he shows up with that dark horse, and then they have this little chase scene, which is really fun. Uh, and then it ends like kind of almost you don't know, it almost leaves it up to interpretation, I feel like.
Yeah.
uh in some senses, like he because you have to get across this bridge, I think, and then you're safe or something like that. And so he finally, and it's kind of a comical, I mean in some senses it's a comical chase scene, it's like the scary headless horseman trying to chop his head off, just like swiping at him, and he gets
It
caught
has
in a
like that kind of like a Tom and Jerry type feel a little bit, like when they used to get into their chase sequences.
Yeah, like he gets caught in a tree, and then he's like on the back of the horse, the horseman's, and he doesn't realize it. And he's still like, and he looks behind him and sees his own horse. Like that's kind of a funny moment. But then it ends with like he gets across, but then the headless horseman throws this pumpkin across, at him, and then it kind of ends the sequence. And I remember the kid just not knowing, like, did he get him? Did he kill him? Did he get away? Because they kind of leave it almost open ended, because they're like, oh, we don't know really what happened. It feels like they're like, we don't really know what happened to him. Like some say he went off and got married, and like but all they found was like his hat and like horseshoes and that pumpkin. So it's like, I don't know. As a kid, I always like, did he kill him? Like I don't know. Like it was kind of scary to me. The thought that he might not have made it. I guess now I assume he probably made it out and just never returned. But uh, and then the bones guy, whatever, I think ends up marrying Katrina at the end or something like that, and having that happy ending. Anyways, and I always thought, like, was the Headless Horseman real, or was that Bones in disguise trying to, you know, because he was jealous of Ichabod and he was trying to drive him out? I don't know. It was real. I don't know.
Yeah, the toss up. I think they left it like ambiguous on the ending because it's just like on
Yeah,
purpose. But I don't know. I feel like it's kind of true. Like I feel like the legend is true. Like with the way it plays out like I think he's an actual real character, the Headless Horseman.
yeah, that's the way I took it. Because there's one scene where he's like on the horse, I think, and he looks at the Headless Horseman, and he even looks down into the headless part, you know, and then
Yeah.
and I thought, well, I guess if there was a head there, he would have noticed it was somebody in disguise. So I guess it must be a real. It just yeah. It just he ended up the guy ended up singing about the song, and then happened to come true, like coincidentally, I guess, and all that. But still, the headless part, I guess, because we're talking about horror cartoons or whatever animation. I guess to me that was one of the early, like, I guess, somewhat horror, because that's kind of a horror storyline.
Yeah.
And it's made for
Even
kids,
the Mr.
Disney,
Toad one
but
has dark tones. Yeah.
yeah,
Even the
that's
Mr. Toad one has dark tones and like the themes and stuff and everything.
yeah. So that's one of the movies I thought about when you brought this whole idea up. Was like, I remember watching that as a kid and be like, oh my god, the Headless Horseman.
Yeah, it was cool that you brought this one up because I like it because it's very old school. It's a totally different time because a lot of the other cartoons or the animations we're going to be talking about came out like decades later after this one. So this one has a much more old school, traditional kind of Universal Monsters type feel approach almost. And it's more of, like you said, the dark themes and subtle undertones of horror. You know, it's not really in your face, but it's more like you said, the creepy kind of telling the story around the campfire, you know, kind of
Yeah,
thing, the
yeah,
feel you get.
yeah, exactly.
Alrighty, so now on to let's see, we got a couple comments and a subjective perspective. High recommendation horror film. Let's see, Disney, Ray Bradbury, Something Wicked This Way Comes. I might have a Ray Bradbury story on here, so stay tuned, stay tuned.
I've heard of that. I never seen it. But
Yeah, I haven't seen that one either. And then Mike asks for shaving the beard. What's your Halloween costume this year? Because that was your reason. So, Mike, it's going to be Pennywise. I'm going to be Tim Curry's Pennywise this year. So, yeah, that's why I shaved. Legends on a Sunday stream. How have you guys been? Been pretty good, man. Pretty solid. Alrighty. So, my first movie I want to talk about is going to be we're gonna go. Let's go into Paranorman first. I love Paranorman, so we'll talk about that one first. And because I have the 4K and everything and the
oh, you
Steelbook,
did?
it's one I've more recently seen. Yeah, it's a fantastic release for real. And my favorite thing about this one is probably actually the way it looks. I love the animation style for Paranorman because it's that kind of stop motion animation, that claymation, but it looks even more like you could physically touch it, more real than even some of Tim Burton's stuff. So I like that aspect of it, and it has a very even the when I watch the 4K, a very three-dimensional look, and I love that. And the movie's just dripping with Halloween atmosphere, so that's fun too. You know what I mean? It's got so many callbacks to Jason Voorhees, and Norman's ringtone is the Michael Myers John Carpenter theme. That's his, you know, his ringtone on his phone. So he's got a zombie toothbrush. So it's like all these little
Yeah.
kind of horror iconic things that it's like I feel like I was like that as a kid. You know, Norman's kind of like me as a kid. You know, was that little crazy obsessed horror fan, and then he finds out that he has the ability to talk to spirits. You know what I mean? That's what you kind of find out as a viewer. You know, he talks to his dead grandmother, which is fantastic. It's such a funny scene when he goes to his dad to talk to his dad, and he's like, "Oh, grandma wants to turn the heat up because she's cold," and he's like, they're like all freaking out because grandma's been dead for a while, and like, you know, Norman's like still talking about her, and he's like, you know, hanging with her in the living room watching shows. So I think it's just cute because it's like he's not scared of it, he's not
Right.
afraid, he just accepts it. You know what I mean? He accepts the other side, and sometimes that feels maybe like it's comforting to know that there is something else after life. You know, that the, even if we are ghosts or will be spirits wandering the earth, it's something that we know of. It's not an unknown. So I think that's why Norman's character is not really afraid of like the ghosts, and how he just talks to them when he's walking to school and everything. And you see all the different spirits that he comes across. So plus the family, I think they're just so creative, so charismatic. The sister, the mom, the dad, every character, like they're all creative and they all have their own like quirks and personalities and stuff. So that's really fun too. And it has a good family atmosphere, you know what I mean? Like vibe that I like about this film as well. And even the friend that he makes, his little friend that he makes at school, who wants to help him with the whole mission, when he finds out that like the uncle passes down the
Right.
witch's curse to him, and he has to sing the read the, what is it, the story to the witch to kind of put her to sleep, so that way she'll rest for a whole entire year, and then then next year he'll have to do it. So I think it's fantastic that it's the story that you just get involved with. There's so much horror elements. It's a zombie film, but it's also a witch story, and it has
Yeah.
so many other elements, supernatural stuff. So
Yeah.
crazy characters, funny lines. Like I love when his friend is trying to fight, like trying to defend him from the uncle, because they think he's just some weird homeless guy, and he has like a can of hummus, and he's like, "Don't make me throw this hummus. It's spicy." And then, like that line just like makes me crack up
Yeah.
every time I see it. So I love Paranorman. This is one that is an often rewatch. Like pretty much every Halloween season, I'll watch this movie with
I
the kids, and it's just one that I love returning to. So, what are some of your thoughts on
was gonna
Paranorman?
I was gonna ask you. Of course, I can ask you all the because you have kids. I don't.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, I was gonna say, is these movies that you show your kids?
yeah, this one I do. Yeah, I show my kids. Yeah, they
Okay.
like this one, the zombie effects and like the
Yeah.
characters and everything. My son likes. I would probably say he likes Beetlejuice more. He actually does like live action a little bit more. I've noticed that with my son. He'll watch animation stuff, but he actually does like the live action stuff better, like the Transformers movie, Beetlejuice, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because it's, I mean, it's a kid. The main character is a kid, so I'm sure as a kid you probably look at it differently than an adult. So I wonder what that
Yeah,
does, when a kid watches it. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's someone my age or something. Because it's like, it's an animation movie, so usually, kids like animation. But this is like, not your typical animation, I would say, storyline wise.
yeah,
um, like not like Toy Story or something, because it deals with the horror themes. But of course, knowing you, I mean, your kids probably are used to horror theme stuff, so uh, that's probably no big deal.
yeah.
uh,
That's kind of crazy. Yeah, it's like they kind of skipped the Disney phase. Like my daughters went through it a little bit. Yeah, they went through it a little bit with the Frozen and Brave and stuff like that, but my son, like, completely just latched onto it because he saw all my posters and he heard me talking about all the movies and stuff, so he just totally went to the horror genre.
yeah, because I was wondering if this was a scary movie for kids or not. I don't know. I mean, not real scary. I don't know, but I mean, it deals with the witches and the all that, but in the dead, I guess. um, it's interesting because it reminds me of like the Sixth Sense in a sense, except like you said,
That's true, huh?
he's not scared of them though. That's kind of interesting, I guess. Yeah, when you pointed that out, unlike Sixth Sense, he's kind of scared of the goat or the ghost
Yeah,
that comes to visit him. And yeah, and I was thinking the stop motion animation is like perfect for this type of. And I know you're going to talk about another movie, kind of in a similar fashion, probably. Um, and I have one kind of in that fashion, but and I think back of like the Nightmare Before Christmas
yeah,
um and I was thinking in like Corpse Bride and Frankenweenie. It's like this horror theme really work well in, I say horror theme, whatever you want to call it, scary, somewhat more darker themed, works really well with the stop motion animation. Has a creepy vibe to it or something. I don't know, that works
yeah,
perfectly for it. Yeah, and I remember this movie coming out, and I didn't think much of it, and then it got nominated for, I think, best animation movie, and I was like, oh wow, like it's getting like a lot of uh, accolades.
yeah, like recognition and stuff, yeah.
lots of recognition and stuff like that. So it was kind of a surprise movie for me. I remember when it came out, and I eventually like rented it and stuff. And it's definitely more. I don't know if I want to say mature themed or just. I mean, it's a pretty intricate storyline. I mean, there's a lot of twists in the story. I would say, I kind of and uh, and yeah, dealing with zombies and witches. Yeah, so it's a very interesting story in that sense that you don't really. I don't see that. I don't know if that's intricate stories, with the Disney movies I usually watch. Which is pretty interesting. I mean, to have that kind of a storyline in an animation movie,
Oh,
and works so well. Yeah, and like I said, and it has some comedy in it, which is good. I think, which you kind of have to balance, I guess, the more darker tones. I don't know.
oh yeah. Like there's so many. Like I think a lot of the comedy in here is much more of the like you said, adults like get it more because it's kind of that underlying tone of like, oh, you're used to zombie films, or we know some of the tropes
Yeah,
that happen in horror films, so they play on that. I think kids are more interested in liking this film because of, like you said, the animation style, and it's so pretty to look at, and it's got a lot of colors, and it's very fast paced. Like it's kind of one of those films that once it gets going, and then you, like you said, with the multiple twists, it keeps you on your toes. So it's never a film that I feel like I'm bored with.
yeah, like who the reveal of the witch, I guess, and like her backstory. Yeah, there's some interesting like
Oh
kind
yeah,
of backstory stuff that you get in the whole thing, and how Norman is connected to it all, I guess. Yeah, so definitely
oh
interesting
yeah,
story, I would say.
yeah. This is a fun one. Definitely, I enjoy this one a lot. So now, would you like to discuss your second film, sir?
Okay. um yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't know, we said, you called it horror theme. Of course, we're talking about animation, so it's not exactly horror, but because it's PG or whatever, G anyways.
Yeah,
But
this is more
um
like the introductory type horror films.
yeah, I mean, it's not a scary movie, but I picked Monsters Incorporated as a movie to talk about because it has monsters in it, and
Yeah.
uh, it's uh, it's it's one of my favorite animation movies. It was second on my, I think, Pixar list, my favorite Pixar movies. It was my second favorite movie on the list. And of course, I saw this in the movie theater when it came out, and it's early Pixar. I mean, it's like uh, within the first five movies that they made, I would say, because it came out, I think, around 2001 or so. Um, and yeah, and it was huge, and of course, it did really
Mhm.
big numbers, and very popular movie. Of course, they made a prequel, Monsters University, later on, and there's also a TV show on Disney I actually quite a lot. I forget what it's called, but there's a TV show that they did. They only did one season.
Yeah.
They haven't done a second season, but it's a really good show. It's really funny.
Yeah, it wasn't about like people that work there at the facility, right? It was like different
Yeah,
workers, yeah.
yeah. It takes place after this movie, and so if you know the movie, it's I love the storyline. It's such a brilliant storyline of, 'cause it takes the whole idea of monsters in your closet, idea like, you know I don't know if I never did this myself, but you always see like, oh, check the closet, there might be monsters, because as a kid, when it's nighttime, your imagination runs wild, like
Yeah.
uh, what could be lurking, and stuff like that, and so I love that it takes that idea of, there actually is monsters in your closet, and and but they're not like really, they're there to scare you, but they're not going to hurt you. They need your screams to be able to. I mean, I thought it was a cool idea. Like,
Yeah.
they need your screams to be able to basically, uh, like electricity, I guess, or to power
Yeah,
the
it
city.
powers the energy to their city and everything pretty
Yeah.
much.
So
Yeah.
that's their motivation. The whole motivation is that they need your screams just so they can, power the metropolis, whatever, and all that, and so it's kind of interesting take, I mean, because yeah, these monsters are, and I don't know if they're, I mean, I was looking at them, I suppose, I don't know if they're portraying any kind of monsters in other movies, but they definitely kind of, you see similarity in them, maybe of like, oh yeah, this could be a monster in a horror movie, you know.
Yeah.
So they do a really good job of designing these different kind of monsters, and that would come in your closet. And I love the kind of twist is that the monsters are more scared of the humans than the humans are scared of them, because they've been told this like lie that humans are like toxic or something to monsters, so you can't
Yeah.
touch them or whatever, or you know, which is untrue, but they kind of believe this whole thing that's been told them.
Yeah, Randall was something else, that's for sure.
Earl Randall, yeah, I don't know what do you call that?
He's like a
Almost like a
salamander
centipede,
chameleon
or
type thing. I don't know what he's supposed to be.
yeah, it's almost some kind of like centipede thing that like camouflages himself and all that. Um, by Steve Buscemi does the other voice. Yeah, great character. Um, but yeah, I like how it plays on all that, and you know, scaring kids, and then it has such a great character arc of Sully. I love his whole arc of, you know, he spends his whole time, you know, scaring kids, and then because he gets attached to one kid comes across that he calls Boo, because he doesn't
Yeah.
have a name for that little girl. It's really cute, and but then he becomes kind of attached to her, and then you know, that realization that he realizes he's, you know, he's scaring these kids, and he's scared, and he realizes, you know, he scared Boo, or somebody, you know, he sees Boo get scared, and then he kind of realizes, oh my gosh, like I'm, you know, it's not a great thing I'm doing, scaring kids, and you know, so I love that whole character arc realization, whatever, you know, that he kind of changes, and like, because he's the top scare, he's the, you know, Michael Jordan of monster
Yeah,
scare
that's a good one. He's a
kind
Michael
of thing.
Jordan.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
he has like a record for most scares, you know, and so he's the top dog, and yeah, he kind of realizes, you know, uh, he kind of changes, you know, because of his relationship with. Anyway, so I love all of that, and it's also just I mean, this is not it's not a scary movie. It's a really funny movie, but
Definitely.
I love the whole take on the monsters behind the closet kind of idea. I guess that's why I kind of thought it fit the theme a little bit, but
Definitely fits the theme, and it's a good one for sure. It's iconic, and I think this film, like Monsters Incorporated and Pixar, was some of those films that really kind of put those films back on the map, because it was kind of dead in the water for a while. You know, Disney even had like that kind of period where it was like a dark period where nothing was really coming out, and the stuff they were putting out just wasn't up to par. And I think Pixar came
yeah,
in and they kind of
yeah,
revitalized that whole genre and like brought this new animation style, these new characters, new stories. And Monsters Incorporated is great. I think having Sully and Mike Wazowski, these two characters that are completely opposites, but then they balance each other out because they're opposites. You know what I mean? Sully is like the left side of the brain, and Mike's like the right side of the brain, like the way they work together and stuff. So
yeah.
I love their chemistry together, the two of them
Oh,
on
so good.
screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, I'm like, I know you know me, I'm a sequel whore though. Like I do love the second one a little bit better,
Okay.
tiny bit better.
Okay.
I love both of them, but like I think it's because Monsters University, I know that one's more of Mike's story. It's definitely more
Yeah.
of Mike Wazowski's story,
Yeah.
and I think that one, it's just a little bit more fun. I have fun with it. It kind of has a little bit more nostalgia feel because they're in college, so it's like, oh, you feel young again. You kind of feel like you're young with Sully and Mike going to college. You know,
Uh-huh.
hitting the fraternities up or the sororities and all that stuff and everything. And I like the competitions they get into. So that's why that one's a sliver above the first one. But this
Yeah.
first film is still very iconic. And Boo, of course, one of the cutest like
Yeah.
characters they've ever introduced, probably for sure.
Oh, for
When they
sure.
try to disguise her as the monster, like,
Yeah.
oh man. Or even Mike's girlfriend. I think Mike's girlfriend is hilarious too. She's a great character. Like, you know, when
Yeah.
she has that realization, she's just like they're running away, and then he tells her like what everything that's happening, and she's like, oh, and then like tries to stop Randall and stuff and everything with the he's got the scare record. Randall got the scare record, and everybody
Yeah.
starts like harassing him and everything.
Yeah. She's got the snake hair or something.
Yeah, like Medusa type snake hair,
Kind
and
of
like
Medusa,
they
yeah.
have
Yeah.
the. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely a solid pick for sure.
Yeah. I love all the different monsters that are in there, and And one comes back crying, it almost touched me, and it's like this, huge scary monster. Scared of this
Or was it
kid.
the one that comes back with the sock? Like, doesn't he
Yes,
have like a sock attached to him, and then they like just quarantine the crap out of him?
they keep quarantining, and then he gets upset and puts it on the other guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got the old Mike Kurkowski, whatever the lady that's like,
We're watching you. We're always
we're
watching.
watching you. Like, oh, such a great voice.
That's
I
why I
forget.
kind of always wanted like a third one where they like where Mike and Sully got involved with that group, like whoever those people are, where Mike and Sully kind of graduated to like the extreme group of whoever protects everything. I always thought that would be kind of cool for a third movie.
Yeah, like the TV show takes place right after this, because at the end of, I mean, spoiling the movie, but at the end they find out that making them laugh actually is more
Creates
energy
more.
than
Yeah.
which is such a great idea. I love the whole, really a neat idea, like, a positive idea, instead of scaring kids
Oh
and
yeah,
making,
laughter is healing. Yeah,
and then
laughter is
Mike
a healing thing.
Mike becomes like a star because he can make kids laugh. He's not good at scaring, but he's got, anyways. And then the TV show takes place right after that, where solely because the guy that ran the company ended up being the bad guy, and so he got arrested at the end of the movie. And so Solly and Mike are running the company, but yet they're making kids laugh and stuff. So it's like this interesting transition period that they're doing, like recruiting new, like the whole story is like this guy is like the top of his class in scaring, and he comes to the company, but the company no longer needs scarers. So now he doesn't have a kind of a job, because he ends up having to work like low maintenance or whatever. He has to work maintenance instead of being like a, he was thinking he's going to be like a star scarer, but then he can't do it because they don't longer scare kids as soon as he like gets out of college. And so it's an interesting idea, and it's really funny just seeing Sully and Mike try to run the company, and they don't know what they're doing, and it's a really good show. I really enjoyed it. I wish they would do another season. I don't know if we got any traction on Disney Plus, but I forget now what was it called? Monsters at Work or something.
Monsters at Work, yeah. Monsters at
Yeah.
Work, that's what it was.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, Monsters at Work. Yeah, I recommend it anyways. I love the idea of, like I said, yeah, I wouldn't mind more storylines. Uh, yeah, after college, or after stuff like that. I love the universe that they were able to build. This
Oh
whole
yeah.
world where monsters exist. And there's a giant monster. And there's all these different kinds that coexist together. I do love that whole, and it kind of parodies human life. Of course, they have to make it kind of like almost, but in their own way. The monster puns and stuff, and I really enjoy. But yeah.
Definitely a fun one. Great pick, Jason. Great. So now we'll get on to my second pick, and today we're going to talk about. We'll go on to Coraline now, since we'll kind of continue with the stop motion animation and
Mhm.
everything. And
Yeah.
Coraline, this is one that I know a lot of people kind of confuse this one with being like Tim Burton, but he did not direct this film. This one was
Right.
Henry Selick, I believe. I believe so. I'm sorry if I butchered that last name or
Yeah.
something, but yeah, it was the director for this one, and I think this one even has kind of a more darker theme than Paranorman. Like the way this one's tackled,
Yeah.
yeah, it has more dark imagery, darker themes and stuff, especially when you have a girl who's not really kind of happy with her home life. Her parents and them just moved to a new house. So, you lose your friends, you're in a new area. So, for being a kid, like I could understand that's like an awful thing because I never moved as a child. So, I don't know how that felt, but I can see how that would be a bad thing because you're like, you just don't know where you're at, don't have your friends anymore, and you just feel like you're in a new place and stuff.
Mhm.
And she ends up finding out that there's this kind of weird, like, secret little door in her house. And when she goes down into the door in the middle of the night, she ends up in a different world, which is kind of like another world, kind of thing. And the people there have button eyes, but the mom does everything she wants, and the dad is so nice, and they pay attention to her, and they spend all the
Yeah,
time in the world with
yeah,
her, and all these things. So it's kind of that grass is greener on the other side thing at first. It's like they're kind of teasing you, like, oh no, everything's nice and pretty over here. Come over here, you know? And I think it's kind of cool that Dakota Fanning as the voice of Coraline, she's kind of an unlikable character at first. You know, when you first meet her, she's not the easiest character to latch onto, you know what I mean? She's
yeah.
kind of stubborn,
An outsider
kind of
almost.
mean.
I don't know.
Yeah, she's an outsider, kind of rude a little bit to people. Like when she talks to YB, she's a little bit rude to him and stuff like that. And
Right.
even her parents, she's very like what do you want to say? The word is craving attention. Like she's very like, you know, wants attention, you know, when they're trying to
Yeah.
do stuff like
Yeah.
that. And then she goes through this transition of realizing that like maybe, you know, she's taking things for granted, you know, and all that kind of stuff, and realizes that there's something else outside, like in her world, in the real world. There's a lot to love about it, like even meeting YB and his grandmother, and then the upstairs neighbor who's hilarious, the upstairs neighbor who does like the gymnastics acrobatics, and he has the little mice and stuff.
That design of that character is so wild. He has like the skinny legs and like the big, it's like
Yeah.
that's a
And he's
funny
always talking about his cheese, like his
design.
the deliveries of cheese. Like who has cheese delivered and then it's sitting outside your door in the sun?
I understand he talks to his mice, or his mice talk to him. I didn't
Yeah, I think yeah, that's how he acts, and she doesn't hear them, or like they speak and you hear like the subtitles when
like
they're in the other world.
what's going on. The mouse are talking to him. He's like the mouse
Yeah,
told me this or something. I'm like what? Like
yeah. I think it's crazy, like the crazy characters, or even though was it the two sisters that read the tea leaves and stuff like that, and they have the tea leaves that they read, and there's the one really tall one with the big head, and the one with the she's got very voluptuous breasts and everything. I think it was hilarious.
that's kind of a funny scene. I like that. They're trying to figure out if it's a hand or a giraffe, I think, or something like that. The
Yeah, and they're like, Rose, she's like, no, hold the cup this way, and she's like, turn it this
I was like, why would it be
So
a
there
giraffe?
are some yeah, there are some nuggets of like really good comical moments in here, but like we
Uh,
were saying, the overall theme and darkness of this film is
yeah,
definitely more
yeah.
heavy compared to some of the other stuff we've been talking about.
I think it's the creepiest one, yeah, that we talked about. If I'll be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah. When did you see did you see this one when it first came out?
Yeah, again, I didn't see it in the theater. I think it was another one.
Rented it?
I think this was back in the day. Yeah, I think I was probably still renting. I don't know if Blockbuster was still around at that time, or if it was just if Netflix maybe just came out. But I remember, yeah, watching it, renting it or whatever, and watching it at home because it's yeah before all the streaming, stuff happened. You can stream everything.
Yeah.
Uh, so I saw it within probably that year that it came out, but because there was a lot of buzz. It was another one of those where everybody was talking about Coraline, and it got really positive reviews, and it did really good. Like I was looking it up, and it made a lot of money. I think it was a pretty big box office movie, and like I said, nominated for an Oscar for Best Animated Film and all that. So yeah, so I did see it like pretty much when it came out, and all that. Uh, yeah, and it was definitely yeah. You would swear it was like a Tim Burton because well, if I'm because I was looking up that director because did he do Nightmare on Elm Street and some of those movies?
Oh, this I can't remember if he did the
I can't
Nightmare
remember. But
Before Christmas. Or I don't know if he was involved in Elm Street or not, or anything like that. But
I
I'd
can't
have
remember.
to look up his filmography.
I looked him up and now I forget, but I feel like he did a lot of those stop motion animation movies or something like that. That was like his thing, and they're all kind
Yeah,
of creepy tone to them, if I remember right. And so you always think Tim Burton because Tim Burton's like the king of like kind of creepy, awkward, quirky movies
yeah.
or what dark movies, and because Nightmare, what did I say? Nightmare Before
Nightmare
Christmas.
Before Christmas. Yeah.
I don't know if I said that right. Because that was groundbreaking. I mean, I know we're not talking about that movie, but that was the first time we've ever seen anything like that.
Oh yeah.
Stop motion animation, live action. I mean, film, full length feature film. I don't think I'd ever been done before until Nightmare Before Christmas, because that came out, I want to say in the 90s, because I think I was a kid when that came out.
Yeah, I
Um,
think it came out in 91. I think it came out in 1991, and it took them years to do that. I think it took
that
them
early.
a good amount of time to film that.
Yeah, so I mean, I know you're younger than me, so you might have been, I don't know if you were born yet or not. Um,
I was two. I was going on two. Yeah, so
yeah,
I was born in '89. Yeah.
right, that's right. I know that, 89, yeah. Uh, yeah, I'm 6 years older than you, so I was old enough to like remember it coming out and being like fascinated by it, because it was just new kind of animation I've never seen before, and the style and everything. Anyways, just saying. Uh, and then you got like James and the Giant Peach came out, I think, after that, and um, you get the kind of stuff every once in a while. But yeah, I guess that I guess I just say that kind of just all drives towards Coraline, whoever that came out, that has that same kind of creepy vibe to it. With the animation is just so creepy, like the character designs. Um, yeah, really dark in tone, like I think you're saying. Definitely, this is the one I can see really scaring kids. Like, I didn't see it as a kid,
Yeah.
so I can't say it from my experience. But to me, this is maybe the scariest of the movies that we're talking about.
Yeah,
Um,
I would probably say I would say so. Probably if I was to rate them or rank them on
yeah,
scariest, I would probably
yeah,
put Coraline at the top. Yeah.
yeah. I put Coraline at the top. I can only imagine what it would be like for a kid to watch it and be like, uh, it's because it has a very Twilight Zone plot to it with the alternate
Yeah.
universe. That's kind of like saying, I don't know if you know Twilight Zone, if you're a
Yeah,
fan of.
it's got like this. Yeah, it's got a science fiction feel to it. Yeah.
Yeah, science fiction. Yeah, you find a door and you go through it and you're in this alternate reality. Like, yeah, it's so Twilight Zone-ish. And then they have button fries, which I was like, that's such a weird idea. uh, button for eyes idea. But I like my first thought when I remember was watching, I was just watching this the other day, and uh and she goes through and she's, oh hey mom, and then she turns around and it's like, oh wait a minute. it's, it's like, not mom. And I'm thinking like I would get the heck out of there if it was me, but she stays, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know why you're like, that would just weird me out, button for eyes. I'd be like, I'm out of here. Like, this is not
Oh,
something's not right. But it's a really good villain. I was just thinking like that was such a good villain character, the mother,
yeah.
because the way she first comes in really nice, but yet you knew there's something off about her. But then as the story goes, she gets like, I don't know, skinnier and taller, and just,
Yeah, she kind of has like a that it just evolves as the movie goes on. Yeah, she
yeah,
evolves. It's crazy.
yeah. And then she involves like almost like this spider lady or something. I don't know, at the end. And yeah, I was like, yeah, that would definitely like give me horror or nightmares as a kid. I think if I saw that, um, as a young kid. uh, but and then it has a good happy ending to it, though. I like the ending.
Yeah, I think it's cool because it has that like bringing everyone together. Wivey's
Yeah,
grandma comes up,
yeah,
and she's the sister, right? She's related to the lady or whatever, so she
yeah,
kind of has this culmination. You have this realization moment that maybe it was all real, the other side and everything. And
yeah,
yeah, I think like you said too, the character designs all kind of creepy. Even Wybie, he has like that hunchback kind of
yeah. He goes
design. And
hunched over, and he has that
I
mask.
think,
I was like,
yeah, that mask is cool. That has like it's like a soldering mask, but with goggles attached to it.
yeah, that was kind of an interesting mask. Yeah.
But yeah, so this was a lot of fun. I do enjoy this one a lot. The music too. That's something I want to talk about too. The music.
Oh yeah.
I believe Danny Elfman was the music composer for
Oh
this
really?
film. I could be
That's kind
wrong, but I believe so because it sounds very Elfman-ish,
of, it
like
does.
kind
Yeah,
of.
yeah, yeah. It does.
So, would you like to talk about
Yeah.
your next movie?
All right. Well, for the third movie, I actually bought this is a movie that it's been on. Uh, I've had it on my like Amazon watch list.
Yeah.
The Steelbook, and then when I was like, oh, I'm going to talk about this movie, so I bought the Steelbook this last week of Box Trolls.
Ooh. Nice, nice.
Yeah,
That's the colors pop. I like the colors on that.
kind of cool. Anyway, so I was like, it's one of those things where um, it's on my watch list, and then this happens. So I'm like, okay, it's an excuse to buy it. Because sometimes I have all these movies on my watch list of like stuff I want to buy, but of course I'm thinking,
Yeah.
oh, I need to save my money, but then I'm like, oh, this is a good excuse to. I have a reason to buy it, so I'm gonna buy it. I don't know if you ever do that.
Yeah, sometimes I do that too. Yeah,
You're like,
definitely.
it's for the because I can. My excuse to my wife is like, it's for my channel. Like I don't know, like
Yeah, the cause. Yeah, that's
it's
how
for the
I got
cause.
started. It's for the cause.
So anyways, but yeah, so I was happy I got to buy it. I know you're like me. I love getting steel books, so
Yeah,
um,
it's so gorgeous.
I'm always looking for steel books. So I'm really happy to get this because I really really like this movie, Box Trolls. It really took me by surprise when it came out. It's by a company Leica. I don't know,
Leica. Yeah, Leica.
Leica, and they do a lot of these. I think stop motion animation movies, I believe. Um, and this is probably a very underrated movie. I don't know how many people talk about this movie. Um, it, I'm, I'm trying. My memory is it came out the year that Big Hero 6 came out. Um, was the big Disney movie that came out that year,
Yeah.
and Big Hero 6 might even won the Oscar. I can't remember now, but I remember because I saw Big Hero 6 in the theater, and I thought, oh, it's pretty good. And then I remember Box Trolls coming out, and I was like, not interested at all because I was like, what is this? Like, I don't know, it didn't interest me. And then it got some buzz afterwards, like it got a lot of good reviews, and everybody was kind of talking about it a little bit. And then it got an Oscar nomination for animation, which I kind of took me by surprise. So I was like, oh, I need to watch this movie.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's why I work. Like when stuff gets Oscar nominated, I'm like, oh, I need to check this movie out, uh, 'cause I want to keep up with, I want to keep up with what the big movies are every year or what the popular
Yeah.
ones are. So I'm in the conversation of like, oh yeah, I saw that. So it's another one where I rented it or something like that, and it just blew me away. Like I was like, wow, this is way better than I ever expected it to be, and I thought it was the best. I thought it was better than Big Hero 6, and I was kind of surprised because that was like the big movie of the year as far as animation, I think. So it wasn't that long ago when it came out. I can't remember how long ago, but it feels like it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, it was
2000,
more. It was more recent. Yeah.
yeah, it's in the last 10 years. I mean, so that's not real recent, but anyways, uh, but and it goes slightly with the horror theme because it's trolls, and they kind of live under the city, I guess. I think it's like a French city or something. I can't if I remember right. It's like a European like city or whatever,
Yeah.
and they live like and they're box trolls because they literally wear boxes as their clothes. Anyways, and of course, then it helps because they can hide in the box if someone comes by, and so it provides good because they kind of sneak around at night and they take stuff and bring it back to like their lair down. Anyways, it's kind of one of those things where trolls, somewhat horror themed, I guess. I went with the um, these trolls aren't like scary. I think people are still kind of oh, beware of the trolls,
Yeah.
and kind of idea, but yeah, then I always love, I don't know if you're like me, Norn, I always love, the idea of like you're scared of something because you don't understand what it is, and then you find out that, oh, they're not evil, it's just we made that up in our mind, and then you become friends with that, thing
Oh
that
yeah.
or that you think is evil, and you go, oh no, we're just alike, we're just different.
Oh
um
yeah. Like one movie that I call back to, like that has that idea for me, is that I believe it was Fred Savage who was in this movie with Howie Mandel, where he's like a monster who came out of his
yeah,
bed. Do you remember that one?
yeah, yeah. I
That
do
was the
remember that.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I haven't seen that in a long time, but I remember that was
Yeah.
again. That might have been like, I don't know if that was in the 80s or 90s, but
That might have
um,
been late 80s. Yeah, that might have
might have
been
been late
late
80s.
80s.
But I must have caught it on TV at some point when I was a kid in the 90s. Uh, yeah, that was wild. Yeah, that's a good one. I have to watch that again. uh,
Definitely.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's one, like I said, that I think of when you bring up that idea of like, oh yeah, where it's something you think you should be afraid of, but then you meet it and you're like, oh no, maybe there is something else there, because it's like knowledge is power. So it's like
Yeah.
when you learn that, it's like, oh, maybe there is another side to this, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's so easy just to, yeah, because it's different. It's just easy to make
Yeah,
stories
you're
up,
afraid.
and
Yeah.
then stories get passed down through generations or whatever, and then you just believe that's true, and it's not. But but it's all, and it has this kind of storyline of this kid kind of is abandoned as a baby or something as a kid, and the trolls take him in, and as you see in the on the cover of the kid, and he wears a box too, just like the trolls, and he
Yeah.
doesn't know he's human. He thinks he's a troll too because he was raised by these trolls, and they call him eggs because he has an egg box as his clothing, whatever. So they call him eggs is like his name. And so it's an interesting idea of like this, he doesn't know any different, so he thinks he's a troll, but then he finds out in the movie that he's actually a human being, and so it's this interesting idea, and he meets this girl, and kind of finds out about the human world, I guess, in that sense. And uh so it has a very interesting story. And one of my favorite parts of the movie, though, is the villain character who like catches trolls. Is his whole thing, and
Oh yeah.
it's kind of funny, the whole idea that this society is like ran by uh, these individuals. They're like the council that runs the city or whatever, and I think they're called like the Red Hat Society or something. If I remember right, they wear like I think yeah they wear like big red hats or something, and they eat cheese. They're all about like eating cheese, and and that's what they do. They just like they're like the worst, like the worst politician or the worst leaders. Like they take the tax money and then they just spend it on themselves, and they're
Yeah,
like terrible.
it's just like gluttony. They're just gluttony all day, pretty much.
They just sit around and talk and eat cheese, and it's like that's your leaders. And like I remember because one time I think they buy like a big wheel of cheese, and like they use like all the taxpayer money to build like this big. It's like you're just wasting the taxpayers' money, like, and like I don't know how they're in charge, but somehow they're in charge. Anyways, but the villain wants to be in the Red Hat Society, whatever, really badly, and so he's trying to win favor by I think catching trolls or whatever. And what I love about the characters though is like you find out that he's allergic to cheese, yet he so badly wants to be in the society where you eat cheese, and he's willing to sacrifice, basically kill. I mean, basically like kills himself by eating cheese. But that was so important to him that he was willing to, destroy everything in order to be in the society. I don't know. It's a very interesting storyline for the villain. It's like it's not a good idea, but uh, I mean, it's a stupid idea, but but it kind of plays into you're desperate to belong, I guess, and
Yeah.
that you're willing to kill yourself basically so you can like belong to this, uh, we call it fancy
Just kind of
society.
like a group, or yeah, like a politics. Yeah, just the group, just to be
Be
accepted
in
into it and stuff. Yeah.
the in group, like be accepted in the in group, I guess. Which I guess I'm sure there's some analogy there, like of wanting to be in the popular crowd, and and all that. Anyways, but yeah, I love all that, and there's some really great meta humor in here. My favorite part is like because there's the main villain, then he has like these henchmen that work for him, and there's like two of them, and they every once in a while they'll contemplate on, are what we doing morally right? I don't know. It's absolutely hilarious. Like their conversation about like what they're doing. It's always funny when the bad guys realize like, hey, are we being bad? Because normally bad guys think they're doing the right thing, even
Yeah.
though they're terrible people. Usually the villain thinks what he's doing is right. So it's always funny when a henchman's like, are we doing the right, I don't know, it's like kind of questioning everything.
Yeah.
uh, and there's this great joke at the very end of the movie, like, and what I love about the movie that really got me is like and, like, the movie after the end, and there's a good climax scene and everything, and then at the end of the movie, like, the two characters, like, are talking about, like, do you ever think there's somebody watching, or something? I think they said they're talking about, like, or do you ever think someone's watching us and there's someone in control? And of course, as they're doing that, you see the animators like animating them, and are in control. Anyways, it's a really good joke, but really
Oh
good
yeah,
movie. If you haven't checked Box Trolls out, like, to me, it's a really good underrated movie.
definitely. Yeah, that was a fun little like kind of like wink, wink at the audience, like the breaking the fourth wall type
Yeah,
thing where
breaking the
they
fourth
do.
wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
loved
this is
it.
one that like remember my daughter Sunny got really obsessed with this movie. She got
Okay.
really obsessed with it and just started watching it. So it's like one of those ones that she just like every day for like 2 weeks. It was like, just repeat, repeat, kind of thing and watch
Okay.
it and stuff.
Yeah.
This is another one too that has kind of like similar to Paranorman, really good animation style that looks like you can physically touch them. Like it looks almost three-dimensional in a way when you watch the film. So I like the animation style for this
Yeah.
one, and the trolls are just funny. Like this is one that I wouldn't say it definitely has, like you said, creepy vibes to it and serious tones, but it's there's a lot of comical stuff in this one that
Yeah.
lands,
Yeah.
which is pretty great. One thing I would say is I think for me, like maybe just only negative I would say is maybe the color palette. I wish there was a little bit different color palette to the film, like itself,
Uh,
that it was a little bit brighter and there was more colors, but it's still a
mhm.
really fun film. It has like really great characters and like you said, some cool side plots that you don't expect to really be in a film like this.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, yeah, definitely surprised me how good it was. And
That's
uh,
cool.
kind of a little hidden gem in there that I assume most people probably haven't seen, but
Yeah, this is maybe one of those films I can see like a lot of people saying like, "Oh, I've heard of it," but they haven't watched it yet or committed to seeing it.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But I do love the stop motion animation. It's so good, and like this and Coraline and Paranorman, like,
Oh
uh,
yeah.
definitely works, in the dark tones, whatever. I guess the latest one would be Pinocchio. Had kind of a dark tone to it.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. Yeah, Guillermo del Toro's
yeah,
Pinocchio.
Guillermo
Yeah,
del Toro, Pinocchio.
yeah. So we talked about your last film, your third one. Now we're on to my last film, and that's going to be The Halloween Tree. And for me, I would probably say this is probably the most Halloween atmospheric film on this list that we have so far. This one is a Ray Bradbury story, a short story, and this was
Yeah.
came out in the 70s, the story, and then this movie came out in 1993. It was a television film that came on, I believe, Cartoon Network. I think they premiered it on Cartoon Network or ABC, something like that. It's narrated by Bradbury as well. He's the
Uh-huh.
narrator. Has Leonard Nimoy as a voice in this film. He's the voice of Count Mount Shroud, so that's really cool. That's a really fun character. And I like this one too because it's like I said, it has a very strong atmosphere. We start off with Bradbury narrating about the town, and everybody's prepping for Halloween. It's like the eve of Halloween. Everybody's prepping, getting their costumes ready, and all that kind of stuff. And we meet four kids. I believe it's Wally, Jenny, Tom, and Ralph, and they're all getting ready for Halloween, and they're gonna go meet their friend Pip, who has Halloween as his favorite holiday, and that's their best friend, and they're going to go meet him, and he doesn't end up showing up. They end up finding out that he went to the hospital to get an appendectomy. He like left a note, and him and the parents left. So they were like, oh, they don't want to celebrate without him because that's their best friend. Halloween's his favorite holiday, so they don't want to celebrate without him. So they decide to basically follow the ambulance, but end up getting distracted because Pip's like spirit, like a phantom looking spirit of Pip, ends up kind of taking them away, like sending them on this journey. And they meet this man named Mount Shroud, who ends up having a Halloween tree that's full of jack-o'-lanterns, and the jack-o'-lanterns all have like faces of people on them, and Pip steals the pumpkin that has his face on it. So that's kind of like the main setup to the story, and then Mount Shroud takes the kids, his friends, on a journey to chase their friend Pip through time and space, basically, which is really cool because you get to go to ancient Egypt, you get to go to Stonehenge, you get to go to where is it, Mexico, and they all talk about like the Day of the Dead or the Stonehenge Celtic rituals that are kind of similar to witch rituals and stuff like that. So it's really cool because it's a traveling type film that ends up talking about, cultures, different cultures, and how they view, spooky time and Halloween, and how they view the other side and everything, and how they celebrate that. So it's really fun. It's a film that has a lot to do with accepting the passing, you know what I mean? Accepting of someone going, all that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
it's really fun. It's a really fun one. And I like the connection of the friends, how they're like so committed that they're like, oh, we can't celebrate Halloween without our best friend. Like, we have to go find him, and get him. He has to be here for us to celebrate. So I love the connection of the friendship. Leonard Nimoy's Mountain Traveling for me is just a classic. Like, when I hear this theme, when I watch this film and I hear the voices, like, it just takes me right back to being a kid, because this is one of those ones like I remember watching as a kid on TV, and for years and years, like as a teen, I couldn't remember the name of this movie. I was like talking about
Okay.
it, and I would tell people about it at school and middle school, and they were like, "I don't know what the you're talking about. Like, I have no idea what you're talking about." And then, like, eventually, like and when I got older into an adult, like, I found the film and I found out the name and stuff, and that was a story, and just did more research on it. So yeah, this
Yeah.
is a very fun one that I love returning to, and I'm when I introduced my kids to, like, I showed them, like, but my son, like, he kind of already was past the animation phase, so he didn't really like latch onto it like I wanted him to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But for me, this is one, like, yeah, that's clear, heavy nostalgia, takes me right back to my childhood.
How do you watch? Do you have physical media of this? Or how do you watch this one?
This one is on Amazon Prime right now. It's typically I
Oh,
usually like streaming. Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime. I want to get a physical media
okay.
release, but they only have like a bare bones DVD, and I'm hoping that this one's eventually going to get a Blu-ray. I don't think it'll ever get a 4K, but I would really like this one to get just like a Blu-ray with maybe some special features on it or something. But they just have like a bare bones DVD edition, which is really cheap. It's only like $5 or something like that. But yeah, this one is on Amazon Prime. That's where you could currently stream it if you want to watch it.
Okay, because this is one I didn't get around to because I
Yeah,
couldn't find it on any streaming, and I even looked it up on YouTube, see if anybody posted on YouTube, and all they had were like trailers uh,
yeah,
for the movie. So I wasn't able to get to it because I never heard of this movie. So I was like, what is this? And I mean, from what I looked at, it got pretty good reviews and everything on IMDb, I think. And it seemed like I looked at people reviewing it. It seemed like, yeah, people were highly praising it from like their childhood or something. And I don't know, I missed it because I mean, I was a kid in 1990. I was 10 years old in 1993. So it would have been something I would have watched, but don't recall ever watching it. So I was kind of interesting. You brought this up, and I was like, oh, I don't know how this is one I missed, I guess. But you said you watched it on TV or something as a kid.
yeah. On TV, I watched it. I believe I don't know if it was. I think it was like the Cartoon Network, like rerun time, like during the spooky season in October. This is like
Okay.
one of those films that they would show on like the weekends, usually like on Fridays and Saturdays. Cartoon Network would do like the movie hour or two movies in a row before the nighttime would close and everything. And this is one that I would typically watch on there and stuff. Because even when you buy the DVD, if you get the DVD, it has the Cartoon Network logo on it still and everything too.
Okay. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't get around to that one.
Oh no, it's all good, boss. That's why I didn't really want to spoil too much about the ending or anything like that because I wasn't sure if you saw this one. So like, but I think this is
Yeah,
one that you would enjoy because
yeah,
it's not scary at all. It's more of a
right.
informational type piece, like a historical telling
Okay,
of like how they treat Halloween and how the season has grown throughout the years. So I think you would really like that aspect of it because you love knowledge, you love traveling and all that kind of stuff, and you
yeah,
like different cultures. So all that's part of this movie.
right. Okay, yeah, I feel like I would have liked it when I was a kid. I don't know why I didn't get around to it as a kid.
Yeah, it just happens sometimes. Like I know there's sometimes people bring up TV shows, and I'm like, I missed it. There's other stuff I was watching or a movie, and I'm like, yeah, I just skipped that one. Like even people ask me like Rosemary's Baby. I'm a huge horror fan, but and that's from the '60s, and I've never seen Rosemary's Baby. But I agreed to do that with Mike for him on his channel, so we're gonna review
Oh,
it together, me and Mike.
oh, cool, cool.
Yeah.
Do you remember like I don't know. No, this I'm older than you, so I always, but we're not too far. But anyways, I used to watch like Ghostbusters and like Beetlejuice had cartoon shows. I don't know if
Oh
you ever.
yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
it's funny because they're kind of, I mean, they're comedies, I guess, but they definitely have a horror theme to them, comedy horror theme kind of thing to them. Anyways, but they made these really kid-friendly cartoons, and so I used to watch those as a kid. I remember, and then I don't think I watched the movies till later. So I think I watched those cartoons first and kind of got into the
Yeah, and
to
that's how you
to
learn about the characters. I always
yeah.
thought it was funny in the cartoon. Was it Remus's character? Harold Remus's character has blonde hair, right? In the
Really?
cartoon. Yeah, like I always found that kind of funny. I'm like, oh, he has dark hair. He has black hair in real life.
Yeah. I just remember the green. What's the green
Slimer.
Slimer? Yeah, he was like a big deal on the
Yeah.
show. And I don't think I don't know
Yeah,
if
he
he.
was like their best friend now. He was like their tag team buddy, best friend kind of
Yeah.
character.
So when I watched the movie, I was like, "Where's Slimer?" And like, I don't think. And I don't think he appears in. I don't know if it's the second movie he appears in or if it's the first movie, but uh, and he's not in it all of it. He's in that one part, I think. But yeah, he's such a good character in the show in the cartoon series. But anyways, I always think about like how they try to take like horror themed stuff and they make it kid friendly on and you don't realize, oh wait a minute, this isn't that kid friendly. Like,
Oh no, yeah, like one I started rewatching recently actually was Courage the Cowardly Dog, and that has like a lot of dark
oh yeah,
tones and dark themes. Yeah, Courage the Cowardly Dog is one of those like I think that's secretly just straight up a horror TV show. Like it's like you said, a very Twilight Zone type show, and it's like
okay.
scary as hell. Yeah, like some of the imagery in that, I'm like, damn, like Courage is pretty creepy.
uh, I don't know if I can go on a tangent, but like I was obsessed with Scooby Doo as a kid. Like I loved watching Scooby Doo as a kid. And
Oh yeah,
uh,
man.
uh, yeah, the TV show, and I used to watch the specials with Batman, and I think the Harlem Globetrotters maybe was on an episode, and
Oh yeah, the new Scooby Doo movies was great because that was the 45-minute long episodes, and they had a special guest every time. So the Three
yeah,
Stooges,
yeah, Three
Don
Stooges,
Knotts,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, Don Knotts was there.
I love that.
Um, there's a lot of great guests, and then they did a modern version too. If you watch a Scooby Doo Guess Who, is kind of the modern version of that, and they have
Yeah,
people like Wanda Sykes on there and Ricky Gervais and Sia. There was even a really good episode with Sia
yeah,
that was really hilarious, bro. I didn't think it was going to be that good, but Sia was fantastic. She was hilarious.
really.
She was actually she voiced her character and just the comedy they wrote for her. I kind
Okay,
of feel like she had a hand in writing it because it feels very quirky, very her, you know?
yeah, and I think they did a wrestling one as well, if I remember right.
Yeah, they did one where they had to solve a mystery. Like I forgot, but yeah, Kane and John Cena were in it. I think Triple H was in it too as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's interesting. Just yeah, somehow they put him in any situation, then the Scooby Doo gang like fits in like I guess any
Everywhere they've
I
even
put them
been in.
in.
Was it live action? First time they were ever in live action was Jay and Silent Bob. They were
Oh
like
really?
just like a little, yeah, it was a little joke thing. Jay and Silent Bob, the movie by Kevin Smith. They end up getting picked up like as hitchhikers, and they get picked up by the Mystery
Really?
Machine Gang.
Oh, that's great. Oh man, that'd be funny. Yeah, I always love the revealing the always take the mask off of the villain at the end, and
Yeah,
I would have got away with it if it wasn't for you kids. Always. Anyways, that's I know you're doing Scooby Doo, so I just like
oh yeah, I got pretty. It's three. I think three more seasons, and that's it. And then I'm done. Three more shows, like, and that's it. I got to talk about Be Cool Scooby Doo, Velma, and Scooby Doo Guess Who. Those are the last three that I got to talk about.
okay. Scooby snacks, like what is Scooby snacks? That
Oh yeah, for real. Like it's funny. That's why it's like funny. I always see the Scooby snacks at like when you see them at Walmart, and I'm like little cinnamon treats. They're like doggy treats, but they're cinnamon flavored, kind of like I forgot what those are called. The ginger snaps, like almost
Mhm,
like those ginger
mhm.
snap
Yeah,
cookies.
yeah. Uh, anyway, that brings me back to my childhood. I was just thinking.
Yep. But that brings us pretty much to the end now that we have talked about all our films. And thank you so much, Jason, for
Yeah.
joining me,
Yeah.
chatting with me for this time. Taking the time to out of your day off to hang out with me and talk about some animation
Oh yeah.
horror and stuff. And is there anything that you got planned on the channel that's coming up that you would like to plug or talk about?
Yeah, just different projects I'm still working on. Like I'm going through the Harry Potter series. I just did Chamber of Secrets the other day, I think. So I'm reviewing all the Harry Potter movies and then ranking them. I'm doing that every week. I'm ranking all the Best Picture winners. There's 95 Best Picture winners,
Ooh,
and so I did 95 through 86. So then I'll do the next 10, 85 to whatever. So I'm doing that each week. Still going through my 100 favorite albums. Uh, I just did number 17, which was Let It Be. So I got 16 more albums to talk about. So I got plenty to do each week.
that's
Trying to I before I finish one project, I always start another project and do research, and so I'm always doing something.
good. Yeah, it's all right. Sometimes I'm like that too. Like for real, like there's stuff that I started and like I never even completely finished them. So I like jump around and stuff. Like I
Yeah,
still got the Chucky reviews that I got to do and Scooby Doo
right,
and everything, and never even got around to The Exorcist because I didn't even have enough time to start talking about them. But I did rewatch all of them. I just got to watch the new one, The Believer, which I thought
right.
was going to be on Peacock first day with theater, but I guess they did the theater release first, so it's not on Peacock yet. But I guess Lewis Smith is in the
Yeah,
house. We're doing good, Lewis. Thanks for stopping by. Keep up the questionnaires on your community, Jason. I love them.
yeah. I'm always posting stuff on the community page thing every day.
Nice. I know that's what's fun. We got a cool little small niche community that's fun that we all take care of each
Oh,
other and hang out and talk to
yeah,
each other. It's really cool.
yeah, right.
But like I said, thank you for everybody who stopped by to drop a comment. Thank you again, Jason, for hanging out with me and everything. And
Mhm.
to anybody who watches after the fact, please like, subscribe, go over to Jason the Old Millennial, find his channel, subscribe. Like I said, he's got a bunch of music content, movie content, rankings. You want any of that kind of stuff, go check out that man right there. He's an awesome, awesome dude.
Thank
So
you.
I hope you all have an awesome, safe, and happy Sunday, right? Today's Sunday. I get confused because we work
I know.
graveyards. It blends into the
I
days.
know. Me too.
But everybody have an awesome Sunday. Peace out.